How does one man, before he even turns 30, manage to build one of the largest empires the world has ever seen? We're talking about a domain that stretched all the way from Greece to northwestern India. And it all started with a young king from Macedonia, a place many at the time considered a relative backwater. So, how on earth did he conquer the known world? This is the story of Alexander the Great, and we're going to trace his path to power through the 5 legendary battles that defined his conquest. These are the clashes that took him from being a student of Aristotle to the undisputed master of a global empire. We'll follow his journey from his first taste of combat to his final fateful campaign. And we'll dig into the mystery of his sudden death at just 32 years old, a death that shattered the very empire he fought so hard to create. Born in 356 BC, you could say Alexander was destined for greatness. But his path was truly shaped by 2 powerful figures, his father, King Philip II, and his personal tutor, the one and only Aristotle. Around the age of 13, Alexander began his studies with the great philosopher, who sparked in him a profound love for Greek culture. He devoured Homer's Iliad, famously carrying an annotated copy on all his campaigns and seeing himself as a new Achilles. Aristotle didn't just teach him literature. He taught him politics, philosophy, and science, molding a mind sharp enough for the unbelievable tasks of war and governance that lay ahead. But his education wasn't all academic. In 338 BC, at just 18 years old, Alexander got his first real taste of a major battle. At Chaeronea, he wasn't fighting Persians, but a coalition of Greek city-states. It was there he led the decisive cavalry charge that shattered the legendary Theban sacred band. That victory secured his father's rule over Greece and announced to the world that this young prince was a true force to be reckoned with. Just 2 years later, in 336 BC, King Philip was assassinated. Suddenly, a 20-year-old Alexander was on the throne, and his position was anything but stable. Rivals crawled out of the woodwork, and Greek states like Thebes saw a chance to throw off Macedonian rule. Alexander's response was swift and ruthless, a speed that would define his entire career. He had his rivals executed, marched his army south, and when Thebes rebelled, he razed the city to the ground. It was a brutal message, and it silenced all dissent. With Greece now locked down, Alexander finally turned his gaze to his father's ultimate dream, the invasion of the mighty Persian Empire. In the spring of 334 BC, he crossed the Hellespont into Asia with an army of around 40,000 battle-hardened Macedonians and Greek allies, ready to take on the largest empire on earth. His first big test came almost immediately. At the Granicus River, a force of Persian provincial governors or satraps gathered to stop him in his tracks. They set up on the high ground of the opposite bank, thinking the steep, muddy terrain and swift current would make for an easy win. Alexander's most senior general, Parmenion, advised him to wait for a better opportunity. Alexander wasn't having it. In an act of pure, stunning audacity, he personally led his elite companion cavalry in a charge straight across the river and right up the bank into the teeth of the Persian line. The fight that followed was vicious and chaotic. Alexander himself was nearly killed in the scrum, but in the end, his breathtaking courage and the discipline of his troops won the day. The Persian line broke, and the first major victory was secured. The Battle of the Granicus sent a shock wave through the Persian Empire. It showed a weakness no one knew existed, and threw open the doors to Asia Minor. The defeat at Granicus was a humiliation the Persian king, Darius III, simply couldn't ignore. A year later, in 333 BC, Darius gathered the full might of his imperial army and marched to face the young Macedonian himself. Through some clever maneuvering, Darius actually managed to get his massive army behind Alexander, cutting off his supply lines and forcing a battle on a narrow coastal plain near Issus. Darius had a huge numbers advantage, but the battlefield squeezed between the mountains and the sea was a nightmare for his huge army. He couldn't spread out and use those numbers. It was the perfect trap for Alexander's smaller, nimbler force. As the battle raged, Alexander spotted a weak point in the Persian line right near Darius. He gathered his cavalry and charged. The momentum was unstoppable. Faced with the terrifying sight of Alexander bearing down on him, Darius III panicked. He turned his chariot and fled, and his escape triggered a total collapse of his army. The Macedonians didn't just win. They captured the Persian king's camp, along with his mother, wife, and children. With Darius on the run, the heart of Persia was exposed. But Alexander didn't chase him. He knew he couldn't push deeper into the empire while the powerful Persian navy, based in the coastal city of Tyre, could attack him from behind. His next target was the island fortress of Tyre, a city everyone considered impregnable. What happened next was one of the most incredible feats of military engineering in history. For 7 long months, Alexander's men built a massive stone causeway, a land bridge stretching half a mile across the open sea to the island's walls. The Tyrians fought back relentlessly with fire ships and projectiles, but the Macedonians just wouldn't quit. Finally, with the causeway finished and giant siege towers in position, Alexander's army breached the walls. The city fell, and his control of the eastern Mediterranean was absolute. This paved the way for his march south into Egypt, where he was hailed not as a conqueror, but as a liberator. In 332 BC, he was crowned pharaoh and founded the first and most famous of his many cities, Alexandria. Crowned pharaoh and master of Egypt, Alexander was finally ready to land the final blow. In 331 BC, he marched into Mesopotamia, looking for one last showdown with Darius. The Persian king had spent 2 years scraping together a colossal new army from every corner of his empire. This time, Darius chose the battlefield himself, a wide, flat plain at Gaugamela, perfect for his scythed chariots and massive cavalry numbers. Outnumbered by some estimates 3-1, Alexander's tactical genius was on full display. As the battle kicked off, he advanced his right wing at an odd angle, making it look like he was trying to outflank the much longer Persian line. This move baited the Persian cavalry on their left flank to ride out and meet him. That was the plan all along. The movement created a gap in the center of the Persian formation. Alexander seized the moment, wheeled his companion cavalry into a wedge, and charged straight through that gap, aiming right for Darius once again. And just like at Issus, the sight of Alexander's charge broke Darius's nerve. He fled, and the Persian army fell apart. The Battle of Gaugamela was a total, decisive victory. Soon after, Alexander marched into Babylon and was proclaimed King of Asia. For anyone else, being King of Asia would have been the endgame. For Alexander, it was just a milestone. His ambition was insatiable, and it drove him further east, beyond Persia, and into the unknown lands of India. In 326 BC, on the banks of the Hydaspes River, he faced his last great opponent, the Indian king Porus and his terrifying army of war elephants. The river was swollen from monsoon rains, and Porus's army was waiting on the far side. A direct assault was suicide. So under the cover of a stormy night, Alexander took part of his army on a long march upstream, crossed the river without being seen, and slammed into Porus's flank. The battle that followed was ferocious. The Macedonian phalanx and their long pikes struggled against the charging elephants, but Alexander's superior cavalry eventually won the day. Porus was defeated, but Alexander treated him with so much respect that they became allies. This, however, was the end of the line. After 8 straight years of marching and fighting, Alexander's exhausted troops mutinied. They refused to go one step further into India. Reluctantly, their king agreed to turn back. Alexander returned to Babylon, the new capital of his massive empire. He was already planning new campaigns, including an invasion of Arabia, but he would never get to lead them. In June of 323 BC, after a long fever following a banquet, Alexander the Great died. He was just 32 years old. The exact cause of his death remains one of history's great mysteries, with theories ranging from malaria and typhoid fever to poison. His empire, forged by his singular genius, was as vast as it was fragile. He left no clear heir. When asked on his deathbed to whom he left his kingdom, he is said to have whispered, "To the strongest." Those words were a death sentence for his empire. His powerful generals, known as the successors, immediately began fighting for control. In the wars that followed, the empire built in a decade was violently torn apart into several new kingdoms. Even though his empire didn't outlive him, Alexander's legacy is immortal. His conquests spread Greek language, art, and ideas across the known world, kicking off the Hellenistic age that would shape culture for centuries. He founded over 20 cities that became hubs of learning and commerce. In just 10 years, he completely redrew the map of the world, and in the process became a legend. If you found this journey through history fascinating, be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more epic stories. Let me know in the comments what part of Alexander's story you find most incredible.